Nimble leadership is the leadership of the future. Being adaptable, being responsive, being able to adjust to what's happening, not just externally, but internally, is the future of strong leadership. Welcome to the Leadership We Need Now, a space where we talk about kind, caring, and courageous leadership. I'm Stacey Dye, and I've been a nonprofit director, an executive coach, and a strategist for over 20 years. And today we want to talk about how being nimble can change the future of your career, the future of your organization. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share our social media and our YouTube channel. It's how we get the word out. So thank you in advance. Today we're talking about being nimble, being agile, being responsive in your work. This is something that as you're doing the work that you are, as you're running your company or as you're managing your team, this is really important to make sure that you are, yes, staying true to your mission, not having mission creep, not, going away from what has really built your organization, but also being nimble and responsive to the way the world is today. And this is a big challenge for all of us, especially as we build something, as we develop something, and especially if we've had success with it in the past. It's really hard to adapt. It's really hard to change, especially if we have a mentality that, what you're doing works and we're going to kind of put our head down and stick with it. I think that part of being nimble is constantly evaluating, constantly trying to understand if you are in the moment you should be in. And by that, I mean that sometimes when we feel safe, when we feel comfortable, when things are going well, we get into a mode of just kind of setting on cruise control and going forward. I'm not saying that we have to lay on the gas all the time, but I do think it's important to slow down actually and look at what we're doing and see if it's the next best thing for the future. And I think it's really important now, especially now, to think about being nimble, to think about being responsive to the outside world, not changing who you are or changing the makeup of what made you special, but really about evaluating what is going to stay, what's going to need to happen in the future, what needs are going to be, what needs there are for the future, and what goes, what stays, what gets fed, and what kind of gets minimized a little bit. And this is a complicated time. And I think that if you go into leadership thinking that, again, it's a linear process, that if you just do these things, you will have great success, instead of thinking about it as what it really is, which is, again, a river that ebbs and flows, and that you might have peaks and valleys to each of your moments. Right now may be a valley. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a peak. Maybe opportunities are coming your way. Maybe there's funding in line for what you do, and that's really important to the work. It's about also being nimble to capture those resources, to make sure that opportunities aren't left out there without you trying to position yourself in front of them. And so I'm going to look at it on the positive side first. We're going to start with that. Being nimble and being adaptive in moments where there is opportunity is really something we're not always trained to do in the way we need to do it. So what I mean by that is, when you have an opportunity, you can still stay strong to your mission. You can still follow your ethical guidelines, follow what you want to do. But when opportunities present themselves, finding a way to have a seat at that table, to have an opportunity for funding or resources, or an opportunity to create a product or a project or a program, is really important to pay attention to. So when opportunities present themselves, just waking up and doing the same thing every day isn't going to get you those opportunities. You are going to have to change things, adapt, be ready for something new, whether that's changing what you do during the day, changing your workload, changing your tasks that you complete. Maybe some things that were at the top of your list now move to the bottom because it's a priority to focus on this other opportunity, because opportunities don't always come that often. And so when they do, we need to be able to capture them. And even if it's something that's temporary, okay, this is a temporary boom that can help us get from point A to point B, we need to make sure we're ready for that opportunity. Now, every opportunity isn't an opportunity. So just because there's $1 million grant out there that you feel like you could do, or that would fit in with your guidelines or your plan or whatever, doesn't mean that you have the capacity or the ability at this point to get the work done. So it is still time to go, I understand this is an opportunity, but it's just not an opportunity for me. I can't step into that in this moment and do the good work that I know I can do. I think that when you have opportunities, making sure that you stretch and are flexible within your management in terms of how you transition that workload to staff so that staff aren't overburdened, how you make sure you transition into different systems. Maybe your bookkeeping or your accounting system worked before, but with this influx or with this change, it won't work now. So still continuing to evaluate what you're doing and how that fits into this new opportunity is really important, so that when it's done, when it comes and goes, which they all do, you can know that you did the best you could. The funder, the donor, the customer knows that you were a good investment, whatever that looks like, and that you can be better off today or tomorrow than you were today. When we look at up challenges and how we have to be nimble in those, that's a little different, obviously. A lot of those challenges come from the outside, so not things that you can always control. So whether that's funding cuts, whether that's changes in policy, whether that's societal changes, adapting to those and still being true to who you are is really important. And again, evaluating what you're doing, evaluating what stays and what goes, and seeing how that your staff and you can adapt to whatever is coming next. But again, thinking of it constantly like the river that flows, not linear, because you will always be disappointed in a linear model. And I think that even as you think about the challenges, the piece that's the hardest is the emotional piece of having to let go of something you started, having to let go of what you thought the future would look like or what you thought something should look like. And so understanding that even as you're filling out these worksheet pages, that you're looking down there and you're saying, what am I letting go? What am I letting go of? What does that mean to me? Is that something that I can move on past? Is that something I've got to figure out how that can go somewhere else, or how I can change something to make that where it even is something I do in my personal life, or maybe it's, something that can live in this next project. Or if it has to go because it's not healthy and it's not going to survive, how do you let that go in the best possible way? And I think being nimble is just a term for really being able to look at opportunities, look at challenges, and stretch and bend into those things without losing yourself, without losing who you are, and without losing what matters to you. And so being nimble in these times is so important. And again, it's a muscle. It's a muscle you have to stretch. Once you start to think about just even thinking about being nimble is the first step. When you start to say what idea I have today will not be where it lands, when you say the program we have today won't be where it is in a year, you are setting yourself up for the opportunity for change, positive change to come into your life and opportunities to come into your life. If you are steadfast in the fact that you're going to die on this mountain, that this stays, then that's a different conversation. But where we are now, we have to look at survival and how we can not just survive, but maybe thrive in these challenging moments. And being nimble isn't about being a sellout or wishy-washy or anything like that. It means that you're adaptive. It means that when conditions change, you stay steady. When conditions change, you know how to address that, or you will learn how to address that. It's about thinking ahead. It's about thinking about not just where you are now, but where your organization, where your team will be, where you will be in a year. And being adaptive is, again, it's a nice word, but it's so important now. It's so important in your leadership to think about, even as you're planning, how do I stay nimble in this? How do I stay responsive? And again, I keep just like thinking about not bending to things that you don't believe in, or not bending against your morals or against what you think is right, but bending in the fact that everything is not cut and dry. And the more that we can be flexible and still get good work done and still help people and still sell products and still do great programs, the better we'll all be. And so thank you for listening, and please like, share, subscribe to this video.